Hello students, today we are going to study history from class 8. The chapter which we will study today is chapter number 3, Ruling the Countryside. So in this chapter we will study that when the company becomes the Diwan, that means when the East India Company becomes the Diwan, then which new methods they generate to collect revenue and what was the condition of agriculture at that time. Now let us start. The company becomes the Diwan. Diwan means governing body or head of the state. On 12 August 1765, the Mughal emperor appointed the East India Company as the Diwan of Bengal. So, in the year 1765, on 12th of August, the Mughal emperor, Mughal ruler, he appointed the East India Company as the Diwan or governing body of Bengal. The actual event most probably took place in Robert Clive's tent with a few Englishmen and Indians as witnesses. So the actual event most probably it was took place in Robert Clive's tent. Tent means boys, a portable center made of cloth. So with a few Englishmen and Indians, they were as witnesses, they were as proof. But in the painting above, the event is shown as a majestic occasion taking place in a grand setting. But here, in the painting which is given above, here the event is shown as a majestic occasion. Majestic means in a way that is beautiful, powerful, or causes great admiration and respect, like that. Occasion taking place in a grand setting. The painter was commissioned by Clive to record the memorable events in Clive's life. So the painter it was commissioned here by Clive in order to record the memorable events or deeds in the life of Clive. That means the life of Robert Clive. The grant of Diwani clearly was one such event in British imagination. So the grant of Diwani clearly it was one such event in British imagination means the ability to form picture in the mind. As Diwan, the company became the chief financial administrator of the territory under its control. So as Diwan, the company became the chief financial administrator. The company became the main financial administrator of the territory under its control. Now it had to think of administering the land and organizing its revenue resources. Now it had to think about what? About the administering. To look after the administration, how to administer it, the land and organizing its revenue resources. This had to be done in a way that could yield enough revenue to meet the growing expenses of the company, and this had to be done in such a way that could bring or yield enough revenue, enough taxes in order to meet the growing expenses of the company, to make up the expenses which were necessary there. So enough revenue need to collect here. A trading company had also to ensure that it could buy the products it needed and sell what it wanted. So a trading company, a business company, had also to ensure that it could buy the products, it could purchase products as it needed and sell what it wanted. So trading company also needed of that trading company arises here. Over the years, the company also learned that it had to move with some caution. Here, uh, over the years means after that means years, the company also learned that it had to move with some caution. Caution means care taken to avoid danger or mistakes. Being an aligned power, it needed to specify those who in the past had ruled the countryside. So, being aligned power, okay, aligned power means aligned means boys belonging to a different country, another different, that means another country, we have to say foreigner like that. So, aligned power, it needed to specify those who in the past had ruled the countryside and enjoyed authority and prestige. Those who had held local power had to be controlled, but they could not be entirely eliminated. So those who had held local power, they had to be controlled, but they could not be entirely eliminated. They could not be entirely removed. Eliminated means removed. How was this to be done? In this chapter, we will see how the company came to colonize the countryside, organize revenue resources, then redefine the rights of people and produce the crops it wanted. So, how was this to be done? Here in this chapter, we will see how the company came to colonize. Colonize means to establish colonies. The countryside. Countryside means the rural area. Organize revenue, resources, then redefine the rights of people and produce the crops it wanted. And then, by the way, crops which they wanted to produce that. A revenue for the company. Let us see this revenue for the company. The company had become the diwan. So company now it had become the diwan means the governing body, but it still show itself primarily as a trader. But still then it show what itself mainly as a trader. It wanted a large revenue income but was unwilling to set up any regular system of assessment and collection. So here it wanted a large revenue income. So here you see uh, this after becoming the one, that means it wanted what? A large revenue income, a large amount of taxes it wanted, but was unwilling to set up any regular system of assessment. So here, but it was unwilling in order to set up any regular system of assessment and collection. Assessment means the action of assessing someone or something. The effort was to increase the revenue as much as it could and buy fine cotton and silk cloth as cheaply as possible. So here the effort it was what in order to increase the revenue as much as it could and to buy fine cotton and silk cloths as very low price cheaply as possible. It was their effort, okay. Within 5 years, the value of goods bought by the company in Bengal doubled. So, in a period of 5 years, you see, the value of goods which are bought by the company in Bengal, it becomes doubled. Before 1865, the company had purchased goods in India by importing gold and silver from Britain. So, before 1865, this company had purchased goods in India by just by importing gold and silver from Britain. Now the revenue collected in Bengal could finance the purchase of goods for export. So after that means importing gold and silver from Britain. Then what happened? Now the revenue collected in Bengal could finance in order to purchase of goods for export. Export means to send outside. Soon it was clear that the Bengal economy was facing a deep crisis. So after that means it was clear that Bengal economy it was facing a deep crisis, a very great crisis we are facing by the economy of Bengal. Artisans were deserting villages since they were being forced to sell their goods to the company and at low prices. See, uh, artisans they were deserting means they are vacating villages since they were being forced in order to sell their goods to the company that is also at very low prices. Peasants were unable to pay the dues that were being demanded from them. Peasants means agricultural laborer boys. So they were unable in such a condition in order to pay the dues that were being demanded from them. So artisanal production was in decline and agricultural cultivation showed signs of collapse. Artisanal means here relating to an artisan. So their production it was fell down. It was fall down. Okay, decline means fall down. And agricultural country cultivation it shows signs of that is also collapse goes down. Then in 1770 a terrible famine killed 10 million people in Bengal. So in the year 1770 a terrible famine means extremely scarcity of food. Extremely scarcity of food is called famine. So it happened in the year 1770 in which 10 million people were killed in Bengal. About one third of the population was wiped out. So for the famine, about one third of the total population it was eliminated completely from the air. Let us see at the right margin of this page. A weekly market In Murshidabad in Bengal, peasants and artisans from rural areas regularly came to these weekly markets. Hearts, it is Bengali word of that means state. Heart means market. In order to sell their goods and buy what they needed. These markets were badly affected during times of economic crisis. So at the time of financial crisis or economic crisis, boys, what happened? The markets were also badly affected. So picture you can see here, boys. The need to improve agriculture. So needed of agriculture improvement is necessary. You see here, the need to improve agriculture. Okay, as that means agriculture, it was also decline. Here, the need to improve agriculture rises. If the economy was in ruins means reduce. Ruins, could the company be certain of its revenue income? So, if the economy was reduced, could the company be certain of its revenue income? Not at all. Most company officials began to feel that investment in land had to be encouraged. So most company officials they started to feel that investment in land had to be encouraged and agriculture had to be improved. And in such condition or situation, that means agriculture had to be improved. How was this to be done? So to improving agriculture, okay, and to encourage investment, how it should be done? How was this to be done? After 2 decades, after 2 decades of debate on the question, the company finally introduced the permanent settlement in 1793. After 2 decades means one decade is equal to 10 years, boys. So after say 20 years of debate on the question, that very question, how was this to be done? So after 2 decades, here what happened? The company finally introduced permanent settlement in 1793. Permanent settlements to reside or to live permanently at a place that was introduced in the year 1793. By the terms of the settlement, the Rajas and Talukdars were recognized as Jamindars. So, here, by the terms of the settlements, the Rajas means kings, and Talukdar means landholder, boys. Talukdars means landholders, were recognized as Jamindars. Jamindars means landowner. They were asked to collect rent from the peasants and pay revenue to the company. So this you see here, they have mentioned people. Okay, Jamindars, Talukdars, they were asked to collect rent from the peasants and pay revenue to the company. The amount to be paid was fixed permanently. That is, it was not to be increased ever in future. The amount to be paid, it was fixed as permanent. That is, it was not to be increased ever in future. So it cannot be increased in future. It was felt that this would ensure a regular flow of revenue into the company's coffers and at the same time encourage the jamindars to invest in improving the land. So it was felt here that this would ensure a regular flow of revenue into the company's coffers. So regular flow of revenue will be there for the company, and at the same time encourage or inspire. Encourage means inspire the jamindars to invest in improving the land. Since the revenue demand of the state would not be increased, the jamindar would benefit from increased production from the land. As the revenue demand of the state would not be increased, the jamindar would benefit from increased production from the land. The problem, let us see again here the problem. The permanent settlement, however, created problems. So, permanent settlement in the year 1793 it was introduced. So, after that means making permanent settlement. Now, let us see problem what it arises by this permanent settlement. The permanent settlement, however, created problems. Company officials soon discovered that the Jamindars were in fact not investing in the improvement of land. See the permanent settlement, however, they create problems in which company officials soon they find or discover that the Jamindars they were in fact not investing any amount in the improvement of the land. The revenue that had been fixed was so high that the Jamindars found it difficult to pay. And the revenue which was fixed by the company, it was so high that the Jamindars were unable to pay. It was difficult for them to pay. Anyone who failed to pay the revenue lost his Jamindari. So it was the system. If anyone failed to pay the revenue, he himself has to lose his Jamindari. No more he will be a Jamindar here. Numerous Jamindaris were sold off at auctions organized by the company. So many Jamindaris were sold off in such a way at auctions organized by the company. When that means one Jamindar fell at that moment, it was happened. By the first decade of the 19th century, the situation changed. So again, see the first decade of the 19th century. So first 10 years of the 19th century, the situation it was changed. Because remember again, decade means 10 years, make a decade. The prices in the market rose and cultivation slowly expanded. So what changes it could find here at the first decade of the 19th century, we find the prices in the market rose and cultivation slowly expanded. This meant an increase in the income of the jamindars, but no gain for the company, since it could not increase a revenue demand that had been fixed permanently. See here, this meant an increase in the income of the jamindars. Jamindars, they are that mean their income it increased, but no gain for the company because it could not increase a revenue demand which they have fixed, that had been fixed permanently by them. Even then, the jamindars did not have an interest in improving the land. See, the income was increased for zamindars, but they did not have an interest in order to improve the land. Some had lost their lands in the earlier years of the settlement. Others now show the possibility of earning without the trouble and risks of investment. So some had lost their own lands in the earlier years of the settlement. Others now show the chances of earning without the trouble and risks of investment. As long as the zamindars could give out the land to tenants and get rent, they were not interested in improving the land. See, as long as the zamindars they could give out the land to tenants. Tenants means a person who occupies land or property rented from a landlord and get rent. They were not interested in improving the land. Let us see. You see a short one. You get to this, boys. Now let us see page number 29. On the other hand, in the villages, the cultivator found the system extremely oppressive. Oppressive means here unjust treatment. So, on the other hand, in villages, the cultivator, the farmer, they found the system it was very much unjust treatment for them. The rent he paid to the jamindar was high and his right on the land was insecure. It was found the rent which was paid to the jamindar was very high and his right on the land was insecure. It was not insecure, okay? It was insecure. To pay the rent, he had to often take a loan from the moneylender. And when he failed to pay the rent, he was evicted from the land he had cultivated for generations. So, in order to pay the rent, he need to do what? He had to often take a loan from the moneylender, means those who are lending money. That means different interest. And when he failed to pay the rent, he was evicted from the land. He was expelled from the property. He was evicted means he was expelled from that land. Okay, from the land he had cultivated, the land which he had cultivated for generations, means from uh, his forefather also cultivated there. So he had now what to do? Now that means he had to evicted from that very land. So boys, let's up to here for today. Thank you all.